Feelings, nothing more than feelings. Trying to forget my feelings of love. Teardrops rolling down my eyes. Those lines were written by Morris Albert and got out into the world in the 1970s. And as a young woman, I found myself some days singing that song with tears coming down my eyes, trying to tell myself, feelings, nothing more than feelings. Nothing more than feelings, but actually feelings are key to who we are. And we're going to be exploring this book, Emotional Intelligence, written by Daniel Goleman, that put the whole area of emotions and feelings on the map. So emotional intelligence, why it can matter more than IQ, made a huge difference. He discovered that you could know a lot, but you could go into the workforce, and if you didn't have good emotional intelligence, that the job would not work out. Indeed, it's something like 80% of people in the workplace don't get fired or let go of because they don't know how to do the job. It's typically because they do not have the emotional intelligence to take care of themselves emotionally and interact effectively with other people. So the recent exploration of emotions was the movie Inside Out. I don't know whether you've seen Inside Out. It was created by Disney. I recommend it to all human beings. Do have a look at the movie, watch it with children, grandchildren, or just watch it on your own. And in this movie, yes, brilliant movie. Hi, Tasleen, good to see you. Right, and each one of these characters represents an emotion in a little girl in the movie. So we have these 5 emotions of joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness represented in this story that unfolds. So it's well worth watching once, twice, even maybe 3 times. So we're going to start with one of the 5 points that Goleman makes about the importance of emotional intelligence. This is the 5 elements of emotional intelligence, and this is the one we're going to be focusing on the most in our time together, is self-awareness. That's really where to begin. Know how you feel and how your actions might affect others. We don't know how they're going to affect others. You never know when you're saying a trigger word for another person or expressing an emotion that may trigger somebody in a negative way. We never know. So to have this self-awareness is an internal job. We need to go inside. I've got a little quotation here from Daniel Goleman that says, our emotional intelligence determines our potential for learning the practical skills that are based on these 5 elements, and self-awareness is the first, and then motivation, self-regulation, empathy, and adeptness in relationships. And he also says about self-awareness, emotional self-awareness is the building block of the next fundamental emotional intelligence, being able to shake off a bad mood. And you'll see if you got the session guide that I put a few recommendations. Know how you feel, how your actions affect others. Keep a journal, that will help. Document. It's really hard to acknowledge what's going on internally in us unless we start to document it. And that's why so many people journal, to notice their thoughts and notice their emotions. We're also going to explore how thoughts and emotions interplay with one another, as well as the body. Slow down and notice. Sometimes we just need to feel our feet on the floor and take a breath and just notice. And share with a trusted confidant, somebody who's emotionally safe. What's that mean? There are some people that are discomforted defy emotions. And that's typically because they were not supported as they developmentally grew through being a baby, a toddler, preschooler, and on, in embracing their emotions. This is why this is so important if you're involved with children, to make all emotions absolutely okay. Emotions have nothing to do with taking action. They have to do with an internal world, such as the movie Inside Out demonstrates. Emotional self-awareness is the building block of the next fundamental emotional intelligence, being able to shake off a bad mood, as I read before. And the next piece, once we get aware of our feelings, is to be able to manage our emotions, to be able to self-regulate. Yeah. Have name of movie. Yes, the movie's Inside Out. Yes. Thanks, Eileen. So self-regulation has to do with not only knowing how you feel, but understanding how to contain it and then choose wisely how to either speak or take action using that movement. Emotion is actually motion, it's energy. We'll explore that a little bit more in a bit as well. So emotional self-control, delaying gratification and stifling impulsiveness underlies accomplishment of every sort, said Daniel Goleman in his book. And how can we work on self-regulation? Knowing our values is really important because that provides a guidepost of, am I violating my values? For example, Manisha was talking a little bit before we started about the word respect. If respect is a value of mine, am I letting my emotions take me over and being disrespectful to somebody? Or am I staying within the parameters, that containment of my values of mutual respect of other people? And holding yourself accountable for poor behavior when maybe emotions overflood you. That whole song, feeling, nothing more than feeling. Sometimes those feelings can overwhelm us. And developing practices that bring you out of a highly charged state or collapsed state. And I've done presentations here on the nervous system before, and this is all connected to the nervous system and our physicality when we get triggered. Motivation, we need to have some motivation to, as the third component of emotional intelligence. And it has to do with this, Daniel Goleman says, consider the role of positive motivation, the marshaling of feelings of enthusiasm, zeal, and confidence in achievement. So it's using all of those excited, passionate emotions to direct us to the success that we want to achieve in the world. Whether that's paid or unpaid, it doesn't really matter. It has to do with, motivation has to do with reaching your life goals, perhaps your life purpose. And how do we get there? We set meaningful goals, we develop optimism and hope, and seeing the positives in the world. The fourth component that Goleman talks about is empathy. And empathy is often misunderstood. It's not sympathy. You want to imagine how you would feel in another situation. But I want to remind you, it's only imagining. You do not know how another feels, ever, ever. That gets us in trouble. Go to a funeral and say, I understand how you feel. One sibling may be celebrating that the father that was abusive was out of the way, and another sibling in the family who was maybe treated as the golden boy is grieving deeply that he lost the father that adored him. So you have no idea really what's going on in people at funerals or anywhere else when events happen. But we can empathize, we can imagine. We could say the line, if I were you. That's very, very helpful. So Goleman says that empathy and social skills are social intelligence, the interpersonal part of emotional intelligence. That's why they look alike. Indeed, following emotional intelligence, Goleman wrote the book Social Intelligence. It is about as thick as this one, and explores this dynamic, particularly of empathy and other aspects of social intelligence. His fifth parameter was social skills, and to be open to hearing both bad and good news, painful and uplifting emotions. So I talked about people who are sometimes not emotionally safe. Most people are emotionally safe to tell your good news to, but sometimes people have tendencies to either, you think that was hard, let me tell you about my painful experience, or they might move into sympathy, oh, you poor dear, or they might want to move it very quickly into fixing you. Or they might do something that's quite shaming and just say, why would you get upset about that? What's that about? Right? So you want to just pay attention to who you go to for any experience of experiencing empathy yourself. And Goleman says about social skills, those who are adept in social intelligence can connect with people quite smoothly, be astute in reading their reactions and feelings. And you're reading, you're guessing, you're not deciding. Lead and organize and handle the disputes that are bound to flare up in any human activity. Now, I just want to put a little caveat in here. For quite a while, people, and I'm not sure about Goleman, did believe that we could pretty accurately guess what somebody else is feeling. Brene Brown, the vulnerability researcher, has recently released a book called The Atlas of the Heart. And in her research, she's saying, I think it's next to impossible to say, I know exactly what you feel. I can only guess. So what's the best opportunity or the best position to take with wanting to provide some kind of empathetic or compassionate ear is to basically say something like, well, if I were you, I might feel this way. Intensely listen and try to understand what the person's saying. And the last line she says is, believe what they say. Believe what the person is telling you. She also, in her research, which is recent, discovered that mental health is improved when we can express a wide range of words that describe our emotions. That the more accurate we are in describing our internal experience, the more improved our mental health will be. So knowing the difference between grief and sorrow, for example, knowing the difference between hurt and scared. Also having a nuance of these feelings. So if I tell you right now, I'm feeling hurt, that would be very different than if I said to you, I'm feeling scared. They're two very different messages, and different messages to myself and different messages to the people that we express it to. A little caveat here is that many people say, I feel that. As soon as you hear the word that, the end of that sentence is not a feeling word. It is a thought. As soon as you hear thought, so I'll give you an example. I feel that my mother-in-law doesn't like me. That is not a feeling word. Feeling word describes emotions, which is the movement, sensation, or energy that's going on inside me. So right now, actually, I'd like you to put the feeling word that you feel inside you right now. And then we're going to move on to do an expansion of feeling words, and then we'll see what word up a little bit later. So if you would please put a feeling word in the chat box. Feeling word describes what's going on internally in you. You might want to do a little body scan from your head. Is there any tension there? Your jaw, your shoulders, sometimes they get crinky, your chest, your diaphragm, your stomach, sometimes our hands have emotions in them. You know, some people quickly put up a certain finger. Yes, thank you, Tasha. Hopeful. Keep going. Let's hear some right now. What do you feel? Just see if I can open the chat box, see if I can see more. Okay, here we go. Just scrolling up. I'll read them out this time, Manisha. Yeah, I've got unsure, grateful, feeling strained, right, restless, neutral, calm, hopeful, satisfied, discombobulated. There's a descriptive word. There's a spin to that. Weary, there's a heaviness to that. So as best you can, describing what's going on in your body is very, very helpful. And often there's a shift. It's as if the body hears us and then settles just a little bit once it gets the sense that somebody's paying attention to it. So thank you for that. So these are called core feelings or baby feelings, just like in the movie Inside Out. And this little guy is my grandson. He's 19 now, so these are very old photos. And we can only guess at what he's feeling. My best guess here is sadness. And if you watch the series, by the way, of Brene Brown's, she did a series, it's on Crave, of Atlas of the Heart. And she gets the audience, she shows the audience pictures and movie clips, and then has the audience guess what people are feeling. And the words, the descriptive words, the feeling words, are quite varied. And then she will say, well, my best guess is, and she will guess at what the feeling is. A good therapist doesn't know what you are feeling when you go to see him or her. Will explore what you might be feeling. And it's like unraveling an onion together. Let's explore. Let's go deeper with that. My best guess here is he's sad that he doesn't have what he wants. And here my best guess again is he's scared. I think his lunch is sliding off the high chair and he's scared he's going to lose what he wants. And here he's angry. And he's saying, I've got the energy. Angry is the message in the body that I've got energy to get what I want. Oh, no, this looks more angry than the first one. Let me just see. That's scared. That one might be hurt because this one looks even like it's more like angry, right? And then, of course, happy is the message that I have what I want. These are really, really important. These are called baby feelings. Babies know exactly how they feel. They're like pure emotional systems because they don't have the words to describe to us what's going on for them. So sad is this message, I don't have what I want. There's a sense of emptiness and a give up. And hurt is the message that what I wanted and valued was taken away from me. Afraid is the message, it's kind of a shaky, scared. Anxiety is really afraid that I'm going to lose what I want. And worry is involved in there because you worry about something that 99% of the time probably won't happen. And then angry is the message that I've got some energy to get what I want. Anger, by the way, is called a secondary emotion. Why is it called a secondary emotion? Because it comes after. So babies, when they're sad, and they're sad, boo-hoo, there she is. Boo-hoo, I don't have what I want, boo-hoo. But if somebody comes along, a caregiver comes along and looks after her and gives her what she needs, changes her diaper, gives her food and nourishment or a hug, a cuddle, a rock, then she never moves to anger. But if nobody attends to the baby, she moves into anger. Same thing when she's hurt or scared. That anger is a scream for attention that didn't get attended to with the first emotions. And then we have many adults that grew up that didn't get the attention they needed when they felt sad. when they felt scared, when they felt hurt. And I work with some of those people that spend a huge amount of their time triggered into anger. And it's the other place that they go is a give up, depressed place. And babies die when they go to that depressed place. They actually die, and they did die in orphanages and regrettably in residential schools because they did not get the nurturance and their emotions weren't listened to. So neglect is a huge, significant abuse that's very hard to name and very hard to describe. Now, each one of these main baby feelings have nuances, all the way from, if you take a look at sadness, we start with frustrated, or just a little bit of discouragement, or feeling down. And then as it builds into sadness, or a bit of being miserable, or being grumpy, then it can get to be like really depressed and heavy. Like sadness has got this heaviness to it. It can move into hopelessness. And it can even move into suicidal ideation, no hope, no opportunity, no light. And hurt feels like a knife in my heart. It's like a stab, right? It can be disarming. It can be, I can feel belittled. I can feel not seen even. I can feel hurt because I'm not seen, unseen. I can feel some kind of pain. I can feel, and that can get to be even to crushed dismay, huge dismay, feeling destroyed. Just check in with your body, and also words such as tight or constricted or oh, I know, right here, heart hurting. Like just go with your body sometimes, and even saying I'm in knots, and that's probably in your stomach, right? Shoulders, if you start noticing in your shoulders, you can say, I feel responsible, I feel heavy, I feel burdened. So just those words can kind of help you if you check in with what's going on in your body. Now, let's see why thoughts and beliefs are connected to emotions and behaviors. Now, we've done sessions before on empowering thoughts, and there is a significant connection between emotions and thoughts. Your emotions are the slaves to your thoughts, and you are the slave to your emotions. Why would she say that? Now, she wrote, pray, oh gosh, here I go again. Eat, Pray, Love. There we go. Elizabeth Gilbert's first book was Eat, Pray, Love, which became a bestseller. Then she did a lot of personal development. She went to ashrams and did a whole journey into her internal world, and has written many more books. Reason is that your thoughts trigger emotions, and emotions, as we talked about before, are this energy that pushes us into behaviors. So she's a slave of your emotions unless and if you start to befriend them and learn to manage them. So what happens is a situation happens, and it triggers a belief or a thought. And what's the difference between beliefs and thoughts? Thoughts are what come to us. Social media, advertising, the television, the radio, reading a book are all sending thoughts. Beliefs are thoughts that are grooved over and over and over again in us to have us believing that a thought is the absolute truth. So think about if you belong to a faith community, the years that you've studied the Quran or the Bible or whatever you have studied to deepen a thought into a belief. During COVID and even now, we have people that believe some theories and others who believe other theories. So beliefs are harder to change than thoughts. The unconscious is way down here. We're unaware of it. Most of us have beliefs that we are unconscious of from our childhood. And often those beliefs drive our feelings and drive our behaviors. And again, this is where therapy comes in, or personal development comes in, to learning about and paying attention to our feelings, but even before that, our thoughts. Journaling, again, is very helpful with this process. And then, I'll just go back here. The feelings, the thoughts trigger the feelings, which are connected to the amygdala. I'm just going to point at the amygdala for you. The amygdala, which is the fire alarm of the brain, triggers that we are not emotionally safe. And the prefrontal cortex, which is our logical, grounded part of the brain that makes connection with other people, flips, and all of the attention, blood, energy goes to muscles and nervous system to activate, to make us safe, to either fight, flee, or perhaps freeze or collapse. The parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems are involved with this trigger. And so even a word for some people. So I've had a client that was with a husband. She eventually left, but she could not say, "How do you feel?" And he would just lose it. And he'd start telling her how angry he was and how stupid she was to ask how she felt. My compassion goes out to both of them, because he has this trigger. Something happened to him. He probably said a feeling when he was a kid. I'm making up a story here. Probably said a feeling when he was a kid and was told, "You don't talk about feelings here," which is an old-fashioned belief. And here's an example that these words and thoughts are very powerful. So this is my hubby fishing, and he's sitting there and he's thinking about catching a fish. And then a thought comes into his head about, I wonder if there's a bear around. Now, just thinking about the bear can trigger his nervous system. Now, if the bear really does appear, then he wants his nervous system to be activated because he indeed is not safe. He needs to run. Or if he's got a bear spray that he can use, that he can fight. But if he doesn't have that, then he needs to, get out of the territory. But even the thought can trigger that reaction. So that whole piece around my mother-in-law doesn't like me, does actually, see that thought, my mother-in-law doesn't like me, is a thought, but it can trigger the feeling of unsafety, of feeling unloved, feeling judged, feeling, unsafe. I'm just going through the baby feelings. Baby feelings really hurt, sad. None of those are fitting here. The baby typically feels safe until it's proven differently that they're not emotionally safe and not attended to. And take away the thought and replace it with another thought. So this has to do with cognitive behavioral therapy. Works real hard at challenging people's thoughts and beliefs so that they can look after their whole system, mental, emotional, and physical. So distorted beliefs trigger the emotions that may not make a whole lot of sense. So telling yourself you're a loser, is one distorted thought. So you want to catch your thoughts, which are connected to your emotions. I actually want to go back just for a second here and mention, while we're still on feelings, the difference between feeling and emotion. I hope I've made that clear, that the feeling is the word we put on the emotion, and the emotion is the sensation that's going on in our body. If you take a look at him again, his body has got every signs of relaxed, a form of happiness. Fishing. Okay, then we'll take a look here at distorted beliefs and thinking patterns. So there's all or nothing. I've given some examples in the session guide of all or nothing thinking. Black or white, good or bad, right or wrong, I'm bad, you're bad, I'm wrong, you are wrong. We live in a blame culture. That tends to be also, these distorted thoughts actually cross over with one another. And so I have the thought, and I can feel hurt if somebody's doing black and white thinking and they talk like this, you are bad. By the way, there's a feeling that isn't in the list. There's two feelings that are basic that I should mention. One basic feeling that researchers often include with baby feelings is the feeling of disgust, which is in the Inside Out movie. And some babies, if you give them certain foods, they're disgusted with it and they'll spit it out. That's a classic baby of disgust. The one emotion that has been fabricated by other people, it's not natural to us, is the feeling of shame. And so if you have this sense of shame, I didn't include it in the session guide, but I want you to know the difference between shame and guilt. Shame is, I am bad. From head to toe, I am bad. And guilt is, I did something that hurt somebody or wasn't okay. There's a huge difference. I can make reparation. I can make a change in my behavior. I can learn from my mistake. Guilt is a really good opportunity. When I feel guilt, there's an opportunity for me to do some deep learning. When I feel shame, it's just that I'm a bad person and I'm setting myself up for some of this dysfunctional thinking, because then I try to figure out, why am I such a bad person? And then I get into this kind of dysfunctional thinking, which is not useful. Catastrophizing is another dysfunctional thinking. One disappointment can ruin the whole day. Life's awful, life stinks, this sucks. I can't stand this virus. I can't stand COVID. I can't stand whatever, You just make something that's going on, which is, yes, it is, that's true, but we make it into it's destroying our lives. And then minimizing. Something happens. You might have lost your pet, and people around you or you yourself are minimizing it. Oh, well, you can always get another pet. No, you want to check in about what's going on for you. Minimizing, we might sometimes minimize our successes. Oh, it was nothing. It didn't take anything. I hardly did anything. Sometimes I put myself together best I can to look as nice as I can. And I used to, people used to say, oh, Patricia, you look lovely today. And I'd say, oh, that's just something old from my closet. I didn't welcome the appreciation, and I minimized that. I put some effort into finding some clothes and some makeup that would flatter my skin. And so we want to be careful. We don't minimize either our pain or our successes or anything else in our life. And not saying, and if something bothers you, then say, yes, it bothers me. Don't say, it wasn't anything. And generalizing. One person lets you down, and maybe one person lets you down one time, and you say, he or she always, he or she never, everybody, nobody cares. I found that one really interesting. I'm sitting after an hour with somebody and nodding and saying, it really must have been hard. And they say, nobody cares. And then I say, do you see me? Are you here? Always, never, everybody, nobody. Just catch that. And labeling. This is emotionally wounding. This is the emotion of hurt on self and hurt on others. It's like stab. Oh my goodness. If you call yourself a loser, I used to call myself stupid. And it's not okay. It's not okay ever to call yourself these negative, nasty labels or other people. Have boundaries around it. And blaming, where you live in a blame culture, rather than blaming and trying to find out who's at fault. It's your fault, it's my fault. You don't do it right, you do it wrong. All of that kind of language is unhelpful. What's not working? How can we be helpful? Expecting others to change. This is very, very common as well. Believing that others need to change so that you can be happy. And this is very common. You'll hear people say, my husband drives me crazy. If only he would fix himself. Or my sister makes me angry. No, they don't. So I love doing this. You put your hand on your heart and say with me, I make me. I make me. And you make you. Manisha, you did a great job of making you. So get in the habit of saying, I make me and you make you. Yes, other people's emotions have an effect on you. But it's your job to stay in that self-regulated place. If you don't blame somebody else. You can put boundaries on people that are doing, for instance, labeling or blaming. I want you to avoid saying, they made me. It's just a very disempowering phrase. You can say, when you blamed me, I felt hurt, but not making, okay? I remember my husband said the F you, Patricia, to me one time, and I thought our marriage was over. F that rhymes with, the F word that rhymes with truck, F you, Patricia. I thought our marriage was over, but 10 years later when he said it this only second time in our 53 marriage, Patricia, F you, I said, well, when, honey? So we need to recognize that the people that are sending messages may be dysregulated themselves, sending a message that's not good. Woof, woof, woof. But how we receive it is up to us. And if we feel hurt, it's only useful and connecting to say, when you said that, I felt hurt. And if you're lucky, the person won't go, ruff, 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 you so-and-so anyway. If you're in that kind of relationship, that's called abusive and you get out of it. But we need to name the emotion to know what we're experiencing, and sharing that with people that are safe is very important. And if we discover they're not safe, then we need to do something about altering that relationship. And I talked about you make me, already did that. We don't need to do that anymore. So what do you do about your thoughts? Well, you not only notice your emotions, you notice your thoughts, notice them. And that noticing is taking a space. And then grounding is having a sense that your feet are on the floor. Breathe into your feet. See if you can replace the triggering thought. And once you replace the triggering thought, repeat it several times to go through this over and over again. So if I'm doing, oh boy, Patricia, are you stupid? I go, whoa, notice. Feel my feet, ground. Take a breath. I have a creative intelligence. I made a mistake. I'll learn from it. Okay, it takes practice. I want to clarify the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Sympathy is poor you. When we make lines such as, oh, you poor thing, oh, that must just be awful. You just, oh, awful, hey? You must be feeling just crushed. It's a tone, you poor dear. I feel, oh, here's the clincher with sympathy. I feel so sorry for you. I want really listen to that. I feel so sorry for you. It's a one-up. It's a one-up. And you makes the other person, invites the other person to do a one down. So avoid sympathy. Empathy is feeling a feeling in your body as best you can, imagining what that other person is feeling, but having that little doubt in your head. This is how I would feel. I'm not sure how that person would feel. So a good line is, if I had been treated like that, I would have felt hurt. And the person very quickly says, no, that's not how I felt. I felt really angry. Or they'll say, no, I felt really sad that they would say that to me after all the years. So we don't know how the other person is feeling, but we can certainly seek and help. That's empathy. And compassion is the message that I care. So empathy sometimes supports compassion, and sometimes compassion's just on its own. And compassion sounds like this: I care, and I'm here if you ever want to talk, or if you just want somebody there with you. Just know I care. That's compassion. That's I care. It indicates that I'm willing to take action as well. Yeah, I care. And if you want help with that, I'd be glad to help. Okay? Empathy's got the emotions, feelings involved with it. But so does compassion in the tone, and maybe you're doing some feeling, but you're not necessarily helping that person connect with their own emotions. Okay. I want you to take a look at some of these feeling words. If you like this little chart, I could certainly email it to you. But just Googling feeling chart or emotion chart, all kinds of them come up on the internet that you can print off. I think it would be wonderful if all families had a chart similar to this one somewhere on a wall that they could check. So how are you feeling about that? Feelings tell you everything about you. They don't tell you how other people are feeling. They don't tell you how the world works. You need your prefrontal cortex on to do logical thinking to solve problems. But feelings tell you where to begin.